I wake to the smell of metal and someone else's will, and realize the weight at my throat isn't fear. It's a collar. Cold light needles through my eyelids. Concrete presses its chill into my spine. There's a low industrial hum, ventilation, steady as a heartbeat I don't trust. When I open my eyes, the room sharpens in cruel, sterile lines. Grated drains along the floor, semi-transparent observation, panels darkened like one-way mirrors, a lens the size of a thumbnail perched in the ceiling, an odor scanner camera. My wrists answer before my brain does. Testing reflex over reason, the tug meets magnetized cuffs, unyielding. Field Guide to Bad Decisions, Volume 1. Waking up in restraints. My mouth tastes like coins. I swallow, cataloging, mild dehydration, a dull ache behind my eyes, a prickle where the collar rests against skin. Not leather, some polymer, smooth as a lie, with a thin seam on the left where an interface plate sits flush. Fishermen call this a gentle line. Trappers call it a guarantee. Omegas like me call it an insult. Air pump cycle. The ventilation shifts from cool to cooler. The room's scent profile flattens until there's nearly nothing. No human musk, no soap, no comfort of coffee or sweat. A sterilized emptiness. Whoever built this place understands what we are and what we use to read the world. A door sighs. The echo lands before he does. He steps in, like gravity agreed to follow him. Tall, shoulders set in a suit that understands how to sharpen a silhouette. No cologne. The audacity of that. Instead, there's the restrained warmth of cedar and a dry ozone edge. Thunder in the next county. Not here yet, but close. An alpha's natural signature, muted, but not hidden. "Mr. Lawrence," he says, voice even, cultured, as if greeting a boardroom instead of a chained wolf. "Welcome to Crowe Tech." I lick my lips, taste the metal again, and smile without showing teeth. "Do you greet all your guests with hardware, or am I a VIP package?" A corner of his mouth tips, a non-smile that still counts. "You're special. You were difficult to find." He stops just out of reach, which is polite in the way a blade in a sheath is polite. Up close, he's more geometry than man. Clean lines, precise economy of motion, a jaw like someone filed it. Dark hair, neat, but not fussy. Eyes that don't wander. They acquire. "Raphael Crowe," he offers, like the name is a credential and a threat. "You were a problem. Now you're a project." "I prefer hobby," I say. Shorter word, easier to discard. His eyes flick to the collar, then back to me. "You ran from your previous arrangement. What you had was not safe. I acquired you to ensure it won't happen again." Acquired. The syllables settle like dust. "You mean you bought me?" I keep my voice light, hands loose, everything loose. Because a tight body tightens a trap. Cute. "You bought the right to brag at parties?" "I bought the right to impose order." He doesn't raise his voice. Doesn't need to. It's not volume that makes an alpha. It's gravity. The market is unsavory, yes. The outcome is not. The outcome, I say, is that I'm collared in your basement. Sublevel, he corrects. And that collar is an inhibitor. Consider it the safety on a weapon. Yours, mine, everyone else's. My ribcage wants to push outward, fight the line. The collar warms by a fraction, as if the device can sense my spine stiffen. The tiniest static nip kisses the base of my skull. A warning, not pain. My breath sifts thin. The odor scanner's lens glints, and I imagine the software labeling mood. Shifts in colors, green for calm, amber for defiance, red for fight. The system eats scent and spits out math. "Relax," Crowe says. "It doesn't affect cognition. Lucky for you." I angle my head so the light cuts off half my face in the reflection of the glass. "You didn't buy a pup." The non-smile returns. "I didn't want a pup." "Then what did you want?" I ask, because questions are better than screaming. Questions leave footprints. He doesn't blink. Results. His gaze traces the cuffs, the drains, the cameras, the acknowledgement of the stage he designed, which tells me he's either proud or merely thorough. He slides a hand into his pocket, the fabric whispering, and for a heartbeat. The cedar-warm storm of him swells against the room's bleaching filters. It brushes the edge of me in a place the collar can't fully deaden. The effect startles, and that irritates me. Anger flickers, enough that the collar hums with a low insect buzz. Ah, so you do feel something. He sees it. Of course he does. He's watching. He's always watching. Mr. Lawrence, he says, softer. And I hate the courtesy because it never is. You were not handled well. Consider this an amnesty program. Your previous alpha is attempting to reclaim you. He interprets the codes narrowly. I prefer clarity. Stay until the situation is resolved. Stay? I raise my hands as far as the magnetics allow. I'd love to. The hospitality is stunning. Another minimal twitch at his mouth. He takes one step closer, not into arm's length, but close enough I could imagine it. With one finger, he touches the collar's seam. Not the showy tug of someone asserting ownership, just a press, a test, a calibrator. The polymer warms under that contact. My skin answers before I grant permission, the nerves lighting in embarrassed sparks. The collar gives a hiccup of interference, a tiny skip like a record catching. We both feel it. That, he says, withdrawing his hand. Shouldn't happen. No? My smile feels like a blade hidden in a napkin. Your toy has a personality. His eyes tip up to meet mine. It's technology. It responds to inputs. Then stop inputting. He inhales, slow, controlled. On another man it would be a sigh. On him it's an audit. You ran because you refused to be managed, he says. I respect the refusal. I do not respect chaos. Order is just control in better shoes. The cuffs bite my wrists when I lean forward. I don't care, and you think you can put a leash on chaos. Good luck with that. I don't believe in luck, he says. Clearly, you believe in purchase orders. That wins me the ghost of a genuine smile. For a fraction, he looks almost human. Then, the executive returns, and his voice dovetails back into neutral. Your vitals are steady. Hydration is low. We'll bring water. Then we can discuss terms. Terms. The word tastes like metal, too. If this is a negotiation, take the collar off. Not yet. Scared I'll bite? His eyes skim to my mouth, back to my eyes. Prepared. There's a pause. Not a silence. There's too much machinery for that. But a space where something unsaid breathes. My pulse knocks against the collar. It answers with a tiny tick, like a metronome nudged out of time. A flaw. A flaw is a door, if you press the right way. He turns to the dark glass. I follow his glance. Our warped reflections hang beside each other. His sharpened by the suit's predatory stitch, mine softened by the faint bruise of sleep, and something older. Where the light hits the collar's edge, the seam gleams like a promise. You have cameras, I say. Record this then. Crowe looks back, patient in that infuriating alpha way, waiting to see if I'll snarl or break. I do neither. I meet the lens with all the heat the inhibitor can't freeze and speak, so the microphone won't miss a syllable. Record this. This beast doesn't get tamed. He chooses. For the first time, his smile is unambiguous. It lands like thunder you can feel in your teeth. Dangerous, yes, but also something else I don't have a name for yet. Good, Raphael Crowe says. Then choose wisely. The collar ticks again, a stutter. The odor scanner's lens narrows its 3-pixel squint. The ventilation hums like an engine waiting for a green light. I close my eyes and catalog the room one more time. The drains, the glass, the camera's exact angle. The way the magnetics complain when I rotate my left wrist. I count to 10 and promise the collar, the cameras, and the man that put them on me the same thing. Enjoy your order, Mr. Crowe. I was born to break instructions. and I am very, very good at choosing. The next morning, or maybe the same eternal day recycled through ventilation. Ducks. I wake to an alarm that isn't sound but scent. Nothing. Absolute sterility. They've filtered even the trace of my own skin from the air. My new habitat is glass and concrete, pretending to be a home. A living module, Crowe called it. I call it a luxury cage. The walls are pale, the light perfectly balanced to never cast shadow, and the floor hums faintly with climate control. Every few minutes a vent exhales a chemical neutralizer that eats whatever pheromones dare exist. Even my anger comes out odorless. There's no clock, just rhythm, machines breathing, cameras blinking, the gentle heartbeat of surveillance. Crowe appears precisely at the time my frustration peaks. He's punctual like gravity, same sharp suit, sleeves rolled to the forearms this time, revealing precise veins under skin that probably cost more than my last apartment. Breakfast, he says. A tray slides through a slot in the wall, like this is fine dining for prisoners. Do I get a menu, or is this a surprise tasting? I ask. He ignores the sarcasm, but his mouth twitches. Protein standard. Caffeine optional. You're generous. I'm consistent. He walks to a control panel by the glass and adjusts something invisible. The air shifts temperature. My collar answers with a quiet chime. Apparently, obedience has environmental triggers. I've designed a routine for you, he continues. Structure stabilizes instinct. You'll have exercise intervals, regulated rest, and optional access to data terminals once you demonstrate cooperation. Optional. Demonstrate. You make freedom sound like an employee benefit. He looks at me, patient, calculating. Freedom without framework is chaos. Chaos destroys. And control builds monuments? You'd make a great motivational poster. His gaze sharpens. Order is mercy, Mr. Lawrence. It spares you from yourself. I laugh. Too loud, too sharp, and the collar crackles with static, a pulse against the base of my throat. Not pain, exactly. Just a reminder that someone else holds the dial. Mercy, I say, when I can breathe again. That's rich. Order is a tyrant who ironed his shirt. For a heartbeat, silence. He does something that disarms me more than any threat. He laughs. It's low, startled, real. Not the controlled exhale of a man in charge, but the slip of one who forgot to rehearse being human. The sound does something to the air, softens it. The lights above flicker, not enough to be noticed by anyone but me. My collar hums and delivers a faint static tick, like it's listening too closely. You think you're clever, he says. I am clever. You're just finally catching up. His eyes narrow, but not in anger. Curiosity bleeds through. You're testing boundaries. Seems appropriate, considering the title of our little experiment. He leans against the glass wall, posture relaxed, but the room feels smaller. You misunderstand your situation, Mr. Lawrence. This isn't punishment, it's calibration. Calibration implies consent, I reply. You forgot to ask. His expression doesn't shift, but his jaw does. A quiet betrayal of tension. I'm giving you stability. You've lived without it too long. And you think you're the cure? He doesn't answer. The silence stretches until the coffee machine in the corner hisses to life, releasing a curl of steam like punctuation. He crosses the room, retrieves 2 cups, and sets one in front of me. No sugar, no cream. Black, precise. Drink, he says, then corrects himself. If you wish. I arch a brow. An order disguised as a choice. Fancy. Think of it as an offer. An offer on a silver spoon is still a threat. It just shines better. That earns the faintest breath of amusement. He stays close while I take the cup. Closer than I expected. The air between us tightens. A vacuum of neutralized scent suddenly breaking with something raw and human. His natural trace, thunder and cedar, cuts through the filter, faint but alive. My collar reacts first. a static kiss that flares at my pulse. The system reads the chemical spike as danger, or attraction. Sometimes, it's hard to tell the difference. Crowe notices. You're agitated. You're standing too close. He doesn't move. I'm observing. Yeah, I mutter. With your nose. That earns another, almost laugh. He steps back, the air equalizing, the lights stabilize. My collar stops humming. For a while, he just watches, maybe cataloging how many times I blink or breathe or want to bite him. Then, with the same calm finality as someone closing a file, he says, "You'll find compliance easier than resistance." Efficiency benefits both of us. Congratulations, I say. You just turned living into a corporate slogan. He leaves. The door seals with a hush that feels like judgment. Hours or days later, the pattern repeats. Lights dim, vents sigh, drones clean surfaces that don't need cleaning. I sit on the floor and trace the seam of the collar, feeling for weakness. The memory of his laugh. It lingers longer than it should. I whisper to the empty room, mostly to myself. He thinks he's the only one running experiments. The neutralizer exhales again, dulling even the scent of my own defiance. The camera lens blinks, a red pinpoint pulse counting time. I lift my chin toward it. Keep watching, I say softly. You'll see what real calibration looks like. And just like that, a new kind of plan starts forming. Not out of panic, but from principle. If Raphael Crowe is the god of rules down here, then I'll be his heretic. Because there's always a boundary worth testing. A plan isn't a thunderclap. It's drip, 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 until the bucket tips. I start with inventory. One paperclip from the maintenance checklist tucked under my meal tray. 2 inches of insulating tape peeled from the underside of a chair leg. Apparently even luxury cages have OSHA nightmares. 3 threads teased from the hem of my shirt until they make a serviceable cord. A screw from the vent grate that squeals a protest but surrenders anyway. Field Guide to Bad Decisions Vol. Shu. If it looks like trash, it's probably a tool. Ventilation sings its cold lullaby. The odor neutralizer sighs at scheduled intervals, wiping the room's scent slate clean. Cameras blink. When the shift in the air hits, I move. First, the collar. I kneel beneath the vent and wedge the screw under the seam of the polymer. Not to pry, never brute force, but to give myself leverage against the plate above. The paperclip straightens into a neat, unassuming pick. The tape wraps its waist to keep it from slipping. I drag the vent cover forward 2 centimeters, enough to expose the thin aluminum lip under which the control conduit runs. The room's hum isn't just climate, it's power. When you've lived under people who weaponize control, you learn to hear electricity like gossip. The conduit is shielded, but someone got lazy where the panel meets the wall. I thread my cotton cord through the gap, dampen it with the water they so kindly delivered, and loop it around the screw's head so the metal meets the plate. The paperclip kisses the collar's interface port the way a thief kisses a lock, with respect and bad intentions. Be gentle, I tell the device. It's your first time. Short, fast contact, metal to metal, and the world hiccups. Not a blackout, just a cough. Somewhere behind the walls, a breaker decides to take the scenic route. The collar warms in a flash, then goes cool, and a soft chirp stutters into silence. Not off, sleeping. I smile at the ceiling. Good night, sweetheart. Step 2 is smell. I pull the tiny atomizer from under the mattress, where I hid it when the drones last changed the sheets. Amber would be furious that I risked it. She'd also be proud I smuggled it in with nothing but a handshake and a distraction. The vial is milky, faintly medicinal. On my skin, it will mimic the flatline profile of a beta no one's nose bothers to notice. The label, handwritten in her loopy script, reads, Hop. Mom, I whisper to no one. To everyone who ever told me to play nice, I'm in a startup. We're pivoting from captivity to escape. 2 sprays into the crook of my elbow, 1 onto my collarbone. The neutralizer will eat the top notes, but that's the point. What survives the filters is the structure. The math of me rewritten to not matter. The odor scanner camera ticks, little red pupil dilating as it tries to resolve what it thinks it's smelling. It wants omega spikes. It gets office intern. Invisible is a perfume too. The door is not my way out. People watch doors. There's a maintenance hatch under the sink, with a vanity panel that hates me. It gives after a fight, revealing a service crawl no wider than my shoulders and lined with dust that tastes like old secrets. Emergency lights casted in pulsing amber, heartbeat lighting for people who panic. I don't panic. Panic wastes oxygen. I crawl. The bento box guts of Crowtech stretch around me, cables bundled like arteries, fans whispering. Every few meters, a sensor sniffs, a camera blinks. I time my movements to the neutralizer's size, pausing when the air is still so my breath doesn't print itself where it shouldn't. The spray from amber holds steady, a flat, uninteresting line on an invisible graph. A grate gives me a view into a corridor, sterile tile, 2 guards in charcoal, uniforms, boots polished enough to show me my own ridiculous determination. One of them checks a panel, the other rubs his nose, frowning. "You smell that?" he asks. "What?" "Nothing." They both look uncomfortable, like men listening for a clock that isn't ticking. The neutralizer does that, turns a world into a vacuum. Predators hate vacuums. They prefer a story. I go up instead of down, because up is where the men who think they own you keep their desks. Another vent, another crawl, until the carpet shifts under the grate's edge, from cheap industrial to something expensive enough to muffle guilt. I ease the vent aside and drop into Raphael Crowe's office like a roomer. The room is the opposite of the bunker. Warm wood, black glass, the city a grid of silver veins beyond the window. A desk sleek enough to slice bread. Paper is a rarity in a place like this, which is exactly why I brought my own, folded in my waistband, smoothed now against the grain. If you want to own, learn to value. If you want to catch, chase like a beast, not like a guard. I hesitate only long enough to admire my penmanship, then lay the note dead center. The scent neutralizer in here is turned down. The cedar and storm trace of him lingers in the corners like a polite threat. I let my beta flat profile sit in it for 1-2 breaths, just enough to ensure the cameras log a visitor with no significance. A door handle clicks. I melt back into the vent cavity, easing the panel across so the slats cut the world into blinders. Footsteps, sure and slow, cross the carpet. He doesn't rush. He never rushes. That's how you make people bleed. Timing. Silence. Paper lifts. I can't see his face, but I can hear the smile. It's in the change of breath, the minute shift of weight, as if the body accepted a game it wanted all along. "Game on," he says softly. Not anger, not even surprise. Delight, the dangerous kind. I could stay and spy, but staying is death. I move, following the crawl downward until the office and the wood and the smile shrink into the gridwork of ducts and cables. The service tunnels lead me to a maintenance stair that's more ladder than steps. I take it 2 rungs at a time, then 3. My hands burn. The paperclip, now bent and innocent again, rides my palm like a charm. Somewhere above, a soft alarm mumbles into life, unsure whether it's invited. Back to the guts. Then, to the bones. The last hatch opens into a concrete corridor that tastes like ozone. Emergency lamps seam the ceiling, throwing red coins of light across the floor. Somewhere water lives. Somewhere the night. 2 turns. A locked door whose keypad thinks it's smarter than me. It is, but it doesn't know I'm cheating. I hold the paperclip's tip against the lower edge of the plate, count the seconds between the system. Blinks, and short the ground to the casing just long enough for the lock to gasp and unlatch. Electricity is an honest creature. It hates being told no. I slip into a bay that smells like hot metal and colder air. The loading dock yawns open onto the night, a slice of harbor framed by cranes and sodium lights. The port makes its own weather, diesel breath, oil smears, and the flat tang of the sea. Cold chews my cheeks. Freedom tastes like rust and wind. I'm 3 steps into the shadow between stacks of pallets when my pocket buzzes. About time, Amber's voice chirps in my ear, bright with mischief. Tell me you did something illegal. Define illegal, I say, crouching behind a forklift that has seen better unions. Did you steal yourself? Yes. Excellent. On a scale from 1 to fireworks, how much trouble are we in? Pre-fireworks, I say, but I'm open to upgrades. She laughs like a fuse catching. Send me your vector. I'll draw the dogs off. Consider it a welcome back bonus. You mean, a bomb. Words, Kane. We're rebranding. Also, your spray working? They're smelling nothing, I say, which is making them nervous. Beta beige, she sings. My masterpiece. We cut the call short. I tuck into the dark, counting patrols, waiting for the next neutralizer sigh from the building to mask the sharp edges of me. When it comes, I move, low, fast, a rumor on legs, toward the fence and a gap even the city forgot. Behind me, somewhere far up in the tower, a man reads my handwriting and smiles like a storm deciding where to fall. I don't look back. I don't need to. I already know the weather's changed. The city smells alive tonight. Bread, gasoline, wet asphalt, and 1,000 strangers who don't care if gods walk among them. Rain falls in fine needles, scattering the neon into watercolor streaks. It's the kind of weather that turns the air electric, heavy with stories. Perfect camouflage for a wolf pretending to be nobody. I'm sitting in a corner booth of a half-empty cafe, hood up, cup cooling between my hands. The window fogs every few breaths, and in it I catch my reflection, blurred enough that even I might not recognize myself. Across the street, Raphael Crowe walks alone. No security detail, no convoy of sleek cars, just him. Dark coat collar turned up, phone pressed to his ear. Cancel the drone sweep, he says, voice steady through the static drizzle. No, I said cancel it. I don't want the pack involved. His assistant must protest. His expression tightens. Because this is mine, he adds, softer but edged. That's all you need to know. The line clicks dead. He pockets the phone, glances once at the rain, and starts walking again. Slow, deliberate, like he's letting the city set the pace. I shouldn't still be here, but curiosity is a disease, and I've never been good at recovery. Amber's voice hums in my earpiece, cheerful as caffeine. You realize you didn't escape, right? You scheduled a date, with a security clearance? I sip my coffee, which tastes like burnt patience. Don't ruin the fantasy. Some people meet on apps. I prefer international incidents. You could at least make it less obvious. I'm a ghost, Amber. You're a glittery ghost. You left a poetic note. That's not stealth. That's performance art. I grin despite myself. Thanks for the feedback. Outside, Raphael pauses at a crosswalk. The lights wash him in red, then green, then white, making him look like 3 versions of himself layered over one another. Executive, predator, man. He moves with the same precision he used in the bunker, but something's different now. The edges are frayed. He stops by a street vendor selling roasted chestnuts. The steam mingles with the rain. He buys a small paper bag, warms his hands around it, and leans against a lamppost. For a moment, he looks human, and that's what gets me. Not pity, interest. The kind you feel when you realize the monster in your story also bleeds. When he starts walking again, I follow. Careful, distant, unhurried. You're stalking him, Amber mutters. Observation, I correct. Research. You're flirting. I'm multitasking. He turns down a side street that curls up toward the skyline, toward the multi-level parking towers. I know that route. It overlooks the river, a place for men who need perspective or isolation. Maybe both. The rain thins to mist as I climb after him, keeping to the shadow of a vending machine that hums like a tired heart. The stairwell smells of oil and cold metal. By the time I reach the roof, the night has turned mirror slick. The city glows below, neon blues and bruised pinks rippling in puddles. The wind brings scents from everywhere, sugar from a bakery, diesel from the river docks, the faint metallic tang of ozone. And under all that, faint but distinct, cedar and storm. He's here. I keep low behind a concrete beam. Raphael stands near the edge, coat open, face tilted to the wind. The rain paints his hair in silver streaks. He doesn't look like the man who bought me. He looks like the man who lost something he can't name. A gust changes direction. The air shifts. My scent, masked under Amber's beta flat spray, should be invisible, but the wind plays traitor. A single whiff of me, diluted, distorted, rides the draft across the roof. Raphael stills. It's subtle. A tilt of his head, a slow inhale. His eyes flick toward the shadows. He can't see me, but something ancient in him recognizes the resonance. Echo scent, the textbooks called it. Rare, mostly myth. Two signatures tuned to each other's frequency can breach any chemical filter. It's not romance. It's physics with a sense of humor. Steps closer to the edge of my hiding place. I press back into the beam, heartbeat too loud. You're nearby, he murmurs to no one. Aren't you? The rain answers for me. His hand flexes at his side, empty. For once, there's no control in his posture. Just the raw tension of someone feeling instead of calculating. I should leave. I want to leave. But the sight of him standing there, drenched, breathing me in like confession, roots me to the spot. Amber's voice breaks the moment. Tell me you're not doing that thing again where you catch feelings for your captor. I don't catch feelings, I whisper. I collect data. Then stop staring and move your data elsewhere. I exhale, low. Fine. Quietly, I slide the empty coffee cup from my sleeve, the one I've been carrying since the cafe. The lid bears a small engraving of a knife, courtesy of my habit of turning boredom into art. I set it on the ledge where the wind will find it. A breadcrumb, a signature, a dare. Then I retreat, soft as breath, down the stairwell before he can find the echo again. Minutes later on the rooftop, Raphael notices the cup. He picks it up, runs a thumb over the carved blade and almost smiles. Still close, he says to the wind. The rain eases, and for the first time since the chase began, he doesn't call anyone, doesn't activate sensors, doesn't summon drones. He just stands there, holding the cup, and lets the city scent wash over him, bread, gasoline, river air, and something faint, vanishing, but real. Somewhere beyond the skyline, I walk the wet streets and murmur to myself, I'm not running, I'm just walking in circles, artistically. The night smells like a beginning pretending to be an ending. And maybe, just maybe, the hunt goes both ways now. Vesper is built like a temple to appetites, glossy floors, black mirrors and bass so low it curates your heartbeat for you. The air is a cocktail of alcohol, heat, and feral signatures groomed within an inch of their lives. Alpha territory, polished and predatory. I step into it, wearing anonymity like cologne. Hood down, mouth crooked, eyes bored. Omegas here come in two flavors, owned or shopping for it. I am neither. It makes people itch. On the dance floor, a tall alpha with a jaw like an expensive mistake offers me a hand. He smells like citrus and debt. I take it because I'm a scientist, and the experiment demands variables. We move. Bodies press. Lights cut. Sweat lifts like steam. I let the stranger bracket my hips, let him think he's steering, and then twist out of his rhythm and back in, leading without appearing to. The crowd swallows us, approves. I tip my head and look over my shoulder straight across the room. Raphael Crowe stands at the upper rail, coat off, sleeves rolled, watching. He isn't pretending to belong here. The room is pretending to belong to him. I hold his gaze as the other alpha's hand slips, not possessive, just curious. Crowe's expression doesn't change. That's the trick of power. It plays dead till it moves. I smile at Raphael like I've just remembered a private joke, then lean in to say something into the stranger's ear I don't mean. He laughs, a little too loud. I let my fingers trace the line of his shoulder, only enough to write a message in air. Look how easy it would be. The bass drops. The room turns red, blue, red. Echo scent rides the light like a rumor, cedar and storm, the signature that filters can't starve. It finds me. It always does. My partner stiffens, noticing nothing and everything. You with someone? He asks, half charmed, half wary. Everyone, I say. And no one. But my eyes never leave Raphael. He doesn't send security. He doesn't text. He finishes his drink, sets the glass down like a period, and starts down the stairs, each tread a sentence you can't edit. I could slip away now. I don't. I peel off the dance floor and let the tide carry me toward the rear exit. The alley behind Vesper is a throat, narrow, wet, humming with the club's subsonic aftertaste. Air smells like rain that forgot to fall. A single light coughs yellow onto slick bricks. The door sighs open behind me. I don't have to turn to know it's him. Enjoying the show? I say. 2 steps, 3, the sound of shoes that don't hurry. Then his hand touches my shoulder, and the wall flips to my back. Not pain. Frame. The kind of hold that says, this is the space I draw. Move if you want to, but you'll have to mean it. Not really a show, Raphael says. Close enough that the storm of him cuts through the alley's damp neutrality, more like a signal. I laugh, quick, breath fogging his jaw. You finally got one. His arm bars lightly across my chest, not squeezing, just present. His other hand braces the wall near my head. My collar vibrates once, a pulse that's not even a warning anymore, more like a habitat learning a new climate. The echo between us tightens, scent becoming pressure. No burn, no pain, just clarity, the way air tastes before lightning. Say it out loud, I whisper, mouth brushing the seam of the word. You're obsessed. I want you to stop running, he replies, so steady it almost isn't an answer. Then, stop chasing. His throat works, one small muscle choosing honesty over script. The rain doesn't fall, but the air feels drenched. Someone opens the club door for a heartbeat, and bass pours into the alley like a pulse, then cuts off. You staged this, he says. Not the part where you came alone. He exhales, a single surrender of careful breath. The edge of his body heat pushes through both our clothes. He's not pinning me. He's drawing a line around both of us and refusing to step outside it. Look at me, he says. I was already looking. I angle my chin so the alley light catches his face. The wet lashes, the crease no suit can iron out at the corner of his mouth when he's tired. He smells like the first minutes of a storm that can't decide where to break. Do it, I say, and I don't mean the wall. My hands hover over his forearms, not touching, near enough that every nerve in my palm stands up and names him. Say it. Something dangerous and human slides under his control. You're in my head, he says quietly, and under my skin. If obsession is the word that gets you to stay, fine. I'm obsessed. You could have led with that, I murmur. Would have saved us both some cardio. He huffs a laugh, ruinously soft, and the sound shakes the last scaffolding out of my composure. The collar hums again, a lower register, like it has decided to stop arguing with physics. His fingers shift, from wall to the base of my throat. Not pressure. Contact. His thumb rests on the warm edge of the collar, and for once I don't feel hunted. I feel calibrated. Take it off, I say. The alley narrows to his hand and my pulse. I can feel his hesitation, like a second heartbeat against my skin. the calculus of every bad and good thing that could happen staggering across his eyes. He finds the clasp. The latch makes a sound like a quiet decision, a half-click almost. But then he stops. Not because he can't, because he's choosing. His hand leaves the buckle and cups the side of my neck instead, bare and palm warm. He steps back. The absence of command is louder than any order he's ever given. I blink, thrown by the emptiness where control should live. Men like him don't step back. They step in. The space he creates feels like a dare shaped like respect. You're not going to, I ask, because the script in my head failed to update, and my mouth forgot to be clever. No, he says. Not like this. Something unhooks behind my ribs. The absence of the leash is not freedom, but it rhymes with it. We stand there, hurricane close, not moving. The air thins to meaning. The echo scent between us becomes clean, bright, cedar warmed by skin, a storm that won't punish, only announce. It threads through my own signature like we're learning a language meant for two throats. He lowers his hand. Get in the car, he says, and somehow it isn't a command. It's an invitation wearing an old coat. I should refuse on principle. Instead, I follow him to the curb, where a black armored sedan waits with stoic patience. Inside, the leather embraces my stubbornness. The cabin smells like money and disappointment in humanity. Nice, I say, buckling in. A luxury panic room on wheels. Good acoustic seal, he replies, deadpan. Always wanted to be serenaded by my captor. I'm not your captor. Not tonight. The driver's seat is empty. He dismissed whoever usually lives there. He takes the wheel himself, checks the mirrors, not to scan for threats, but to give me a chance to change my mind. I don't. We don't talk for the first blocks. The city flows around us. Wet streets, sodium lamps, a bridge ahead lit like a runway. Windows up, the world becomes a private stage, where scent survives the rain. The echo scent is gentler here, contained, bright. Not hunger, not battle, recognition. At the midpoint of the bridge, he slows. The river below breathes diesel and cold iron. He doesn't look at me when he says, I can't promise I won't try to control things. It's how I survived. And I can't promise I won't break your favorite rules, I answer. It's how I survived. He nods, accepting that truth like a contract. Then maybe we can try something else. Like what? Not chasing, he says. Not running. The car rolls forward again. I watch his hands on the wheel. Steady, clean, imperfect in a way that makes me want to touch, which is annoying. Fine, I say. Truce. For tonight. For tonight, I agree. We exit the bridge into a wind that smells like wet metal and waking choices. He doesn't reach for the collar again. I don't ask him to. The space between us isn't empty anymore. It's possibility, shaped like a spark waiting for dry tinder. I let my head tip back against the seat and close my eyes for 1 second, just to feel how the air moves. The echo scent threads the cabin, soft as a promise that isn't a chain. Outside, a siren cries and keeps going. Inside, our silence counts as the loudest thing I've heard in weeks. The elevator to Raphael's penthouse climbs like a held breath, silent, inexorable, leaving the city stacked beneath us in obedient rectangles of light. When the doors open, I step into a space that thinks it's above weather and consequence, walls of glass, a skyline poured into the room like a second atmosphere, a winter garden tucked in one corner where citrus trees pretend the world doesn't have edges. I stop just past the threshold and say the only words that matter. No command collar, only offers. I can leave whenever I choose, he answers without a beat of theater. Agreed. The inactive collar, that collar, rests on a tray by the entry like a museum exhibit. Not powered, not on me. A reminder that the past happened and the future is elective. Symbolic, he says. Motivational, I counter, and hang my jacket beside a coat that probably went to boarding school. We circle each other the way people do when the battlefield has been redrawn into a floor plan. His home is not ostentatious, just precise. A tea alcove with clay pots lined like quiet soldiers, a closed kitchen with knives that glint like white-collar confessions, 2 refrigerators humming in perfect pitch. 2 fridges, I say, opening one. One for food, the other for your pride. His mouth tilts. The second is for produce. The first is for everything that offends produce. Your pride is perishable, I note. Good to know. He shows me the guest room, which is not very guest at all. Linen that smells faintly of sun and soap. A window with a view of a bridge curve I recognize from the night we didn't run. The bathroom cabinet contains an absurdly competent first aid kit. The label on the antiseptic spray reads sting-free like a promise nobody keeps. Someone's prepared, I say. I prefer not to improvise with health. His tone is diplomatic. It leaves out the part where improvisation is how I got here. We test the rules, the way kids test ice. He doesn't tell me to shower, but the water is already hot when I decide to. He doesn't assign me a time for meals. But breakfast appears on the counter at an hour my circadian rhythm can agree with. He doesn't touch me. He moves near me in ways that let the air guess. Our scents find each other anyway, a cautious modulation that starts in the winter garden of all places. Citrus oils breathe their bright grammar into the room, underneath, his cedar and storm's signature threads. My own until the edge of my anxiety dulls like a knife finally learning its job isn't to cut. Filters are set low here. It feels deliberate. We cook, because cooking is intimacy without a verdict. I handle the eggs, he handles the knives. It's less a division of labor than a treaty signed in yolk and salt. When I reach for the skillet, his hand arrives at the same time. Our fingers brush, and every nerve from wrist to jaw lights up. A quiet, precise static. Not the collar. Sorry, he says. He means I noticed too. It's a small kitchen, I lie. The tea alcove becomes neutral ground. He prepares oolong as if the leaves could file a complaint. I pretend not to watch the way his hands move. Economical, exact, human. When he passes me a cup, the steam carries that now familiar thunder note under the fragrance. The echo scent between us behaves like a weather system that learned manners. Pressure equalizes. My shoulders stop trying to climb into my ears. Later, I do laundry because being domesticated in my own handwriting hurts less. His shirts are traitors. Soft, well-cut, annoyingly honest. In the tiny laundry closet, the dryer door squeaks. I make a mental note to oil it, then hate myself for making a mental note. I find the toolkit before I can talk myself out of it. 2 turns of a screwdriver, a drop of oil, and the door learns to behave. I leave the wrench where he'll find it, like a breadcrumb made of competence. We move around each other in the hall, small collisions, polite evasions. In the narrow corridor leading back from the winter garden, our shoulders graze. The contact is accidental. The electricity is not. The echo scent brightens. No heat spike, no burn, just a clean alignment like sound dialing into tune. He clears his throat. I don't. Dinner is a mean little victory of roasted vegetables and grilled fish. Simple, clean, 2 plates. He asks if I want wine. I ask if he wants honesty. We settle on water and answers that don't pretend to be fiction. Night leans against the glass walls. The city makes a low, endless sound. It's late when we end up in the closed kitchen, the overhead lights off, the under-cabinet glow painting the counters in a patient wash. Espresso machine hums like a well-paid therapist. My turn, he says, rolling up his sleeves with the least sexy intention I've ever found sexy. How do you take your coffee? Depends who's making it. He waits. Double shot, I say. Small cup. Hotter than you think. Tiny pour of water, not enough to admit it's an Americano. No sugar unless I've bled today. If there's milk, it never happened. He nods, as if I've offered stock preferences instead of a roadmap. He doesn't reach for a manual. He doesn't ask twice. He just makes it. The cup he hands me is exactly right, down to the heat that kisses my lip without burning. He watches my face, like the taste is a diagnostic. What? I say, after, because silence makes the truth too loud. Gesture, he says. Data, I snort. Congratulations. You just discovered empathy. He doesn't bite. I had to unlearn other reflexes first. The window's reflection holds us both. His is stubborn and tired. Mine is stubborn and trying not to look relieved. We let the espresso machine cool the room. He speaks into the quiet. You asked me on the bridge what I wanted, but not why I keep wanting to control it. I figured you'd write me a white paper. My family was a company before it was a family, he says, looking at the city like it owes him a footnote. When the company failed, the family didn't notice until the roof was already in the living room. Control was the only part that paid attention to me back. A line of something in my chest remembers how to ache. My old pack called ownership love, I say. They gave gifts with leashes attached. They liked saying for your own good before doing something bad. He glances at the tray by the door, where the inactive collar rests with all the menace of a sleeping snake. I'm trying not to be that. You're succeeding tonight, I say, and let the words do their reckless work. Don't make me regret it in the morning. Don't make me regret trusting you'll stay. I told you the terms. He nods, and I agreed. We stand with our backs to the counter, cups in hand, stupidly adult in our truce. The scents between us adapt to the room's hush. His storm eased to rain held in the clouds, my signature unwinding out of vigilance. It's not romance. It's a physiological ceasefire that tastes suspiciously like relief. He rinses both cups, sets them on a towel like this too, should be precise. On the way out of the kitchen, his shoulder almost touches mine and then does, and no alarms go off anywhere in the building. At the window, the city unrolls. Bridges, arteries of cars, the specific way sodium light makes the river look like a thought being held in someone else's head. I rest my forehead briefly against the glass, because I want to feel a different temperature than my own. He stops a respectful distance away. The inactive collar, our ugly souvenir, waits patiently near the door. It can wait forever. Do you feel safer here? He asks, not turning the question into an audit. I check myself. Breath, pulse, the animal that lives at the base of my spine. The answer arrives before I can lie to it. I feel quiet, I say, which I didn't think was available on your floor plan. Good, he says, and means thank you. I look at the city and let the quiet happen to me. It doesn't feel like surrender. It feels like a room I didn't know I was allowed to enter. The echo scent softens until it's just weather. For the first time since I woke up in his sub-level cage, my nerves stop counting the exits. The glass isn't a wall, it's a view. The future leans in, not with teeth, but with curiosity. Don't ruin this, I mutter to the world. To him, to me. I'll try not to, he answers, and the try matters more than any contract we could sign. We stand there until our reflections stop looking like strangers. And for one small, unguarded minute, I am exactly what I insisted on being. Here by choice. Quiet, on purpose, safe enough to breathe. The day the past comes to collect me, the elevators at Crow Tech never stop moving. Security pings multiply like anxious heartbeats on the glass walls of Raphael's office. Outside, the sky is the color of metal and intentions. The river wind threads diesel through the city. On the table between us sits a legal envelope, heavy with paper and old habits. It's an ultimatum, Raphael says, sliding the envelope toward me with 2 fingers, as if it might bite. Pack Council petition. Your former alpha claims right of recall. I don't touch the paper. It smells like stale ink and ceremonial arrogance. He's nothing if not punctual about possession. The door opens without a knock. The only person allowed to do that is family. Noah Crowe moves through rooms like everything inside them just got gentler. He's Raphael's height without the edge. All calm lines and soft gravity. The kind of alpha who leads because people want to follow, not because they're afraid not to. Fresh mint and warm wood ghost after him. His signature is a breath you trust without noticing you decided to. Before you decide anything, Noah says, you both need to breathe. He shoots me a small wry smile, preferably air that isn't filtered through legal posturing. Raphael doesn't sit. He bristles in precise ways. A man who would prefer a clean enemy and got a ritual instead. They filed under Code 14, he says. Right of recall after an interrupted bond. Noah nods, and you'll cite Code 7C, Omega's choose. His gaze flicks to me. It's steady, without being invasive. But codes don't stop fists. We have reports. Your former pack is mustering at the river warehouses. Of course they are, I mutter. Nothing says, we respect order, like trespassing with an entourage. Noah ignores the sarcasm. He's good like that. I can pull city permits to close the streets. Legitimate cover. But, Raph. He rests a hand on his brother's shoulder, and I watch the contact recalibrate the room. Sometimes power is the risk of being more human than the other man. If you step into this like a CEO, you'll lose a partner. If you step into it like a person, you might keep him. Raphael's jaw works. One heartbeat of stubbornness, one of consideration. He nods once. A decision you can't hear but can smell. Storm easing, not retreating, into rain held in the clouds. Amber? I say, tapping my earpiece. Static, then delight. Say the word, Kane. On a scale from 1 to fireworks, I'm marinating at moderate sparkle. We're headed to the riverside terminals, I say. We'll need a distraction without body count. Keep civilians out. No trophies, no tragedy. Amber sighs, mock disappointed. Fine. Confetti with morals. I'll invoice the romance surcharge. That's not a thing, Raphael says dryly. It is now, she chirps. Line item, pyrotechnics for character development. Noah's smile tilts. I like her. Get in line, I say, and we move. The industrial strip smells like old promises, rust, rope, sunburnt steel. Wind cuts along the river in practice strokes. The warehouse amber flagged is a big-bellied brick thing with roll-up doors like eyelids. A few employees are still inside when we arrive. Raphael doesn't bark orders. He doesn't need to. One look, a few precise words, and they evacuate with the kind of calm you only get when your boss saves panic for private rooms. Across the yard, my past lines up like a photograph trying to be law. My former alpha stands at the front, flanked by lieutenants who believe their certainty makes them virtuous. He was handsome once, in the way wreckage looks like architecture if you crop it right. He smells the same, polished dominance with a varnish of righteousness. Return what's ours, he calls, voice resonant enough for microphones he didn't earn. We claim him by right of recall. Raphael steps forward, but not in front of me. Beside me, a geometry change visible from space. You're trespassing, he says, even, executive. And you're misquoting the code. Noah stands slightly behind, the perfect flanker, Minton Wood keeping the edge of the moment from slicing open too soon. A handful of Crow Tech security hang back, palms open. No guns. This isn't that fight. My former alpha smiles, benign as a sermon. He is a risk to himself, to others. We will correct what was interrupted. I'm right here, I say, because if I let them talk around me, I become the thing they say I am. I step forward, where both packs can see me, feel me, smell the honest chemistry of my choice. You don't correct me. You listen to me, and you won't like the words. His eyes find mine, and there it is, the flicker of surprise that comes when your property learns grammar. Kane, he says softly. We took care of. You took inventory, I cut in, like I was a line item with legs. Love that comes with a leash isn't love, it's accounting with perfume. Something ripples through their ranks. Doubt has a scent. Thin and nervous, Amber's timing is a religion. The far end of the warehouse coughs, smoke and harmless. Color bombs, a chorus of bangs, bright enough to trip instincts but not guilt. An emergency sprinkler kicks on, dousing an empty bay. Evacuation drill, she coos in my ear. No casualties, only drama. Raphael doesn't look at the smoke. He looks at me, checks my breath, my stance, the space I've chosen. He doesn't touch. He calibrates to me anyway. Return him, my former alpha says again, but the word's softer. He didn't expect resistance to smell like civility. No, Raphael answers. And it's not thunder this time. It's law. He chooses. My ex takes a step, then another, misreading the quiet as weakness instead of aim. You think he'll stay with you? He'll default to strength, as we all do. He'll choose the strongest. Noah's voice is calm as a verdict. Strength isn't volume. We have numbers, the lieutenant snarls, because clichés always show up to fights dressed as tactics. And I have codes, Noah says, already texting a city liaison I can smell across the yard by the ink on the permit. Plus jurisdiction, plus public opinion. Try not to sneeze, the paperwork might fall over. They edge forward. The air tightens. The river wind turns our way, and the world adjusts to what we really are. The blocky, ugly magic of our biology lights up, not to hurt but to navigate. Raphael's scent threads mine, cedar and storm aligning to my rhythm until my pulse sinks without asking. I don't have to look to know where he is. He doesn't have to look to feel when I'll move. Left, I breathe. He's already there. Footwork a clean shadow against the asphalt, intercepting the first lunge with a redirect that puts the man on his heels without cracking bone. I slide past another, drop my center, and let momentum be its own teacher. We don't hurt. We displace. It's choreography written in scent and line of sight, a rare pairing the texts. Call synchrony when they don't want to admit they're talking about bond. Right. 2, Raphael murmurs, and I pivot before the warning finishes, our shoulders, almost touching, the coil of us springing and relaxing like the same muscle. My former alpha loses the sermon and reaches for violence, the way a drowning man reaches for light. He grabs for me. Old reflex, old claim. Raphael steps between, not towering, just there, not above me, in front of me. An angle that says, don't. He doesn't look back to check if I'm grateful. He assumes I can hold my ground beside him. I'm not a prize, I say into the noise, the wind, the stupid, inherited certainty that brought us here. I don't default to strength. I choose it. What you choose is irrelevant, my ex snarls. You'll choose whoever removes your fear. I smile then. An honest, furious, relieved thing. Exactly. I choose the one who takes off chains, not the one who kisses them. Hand lifts as if to strike. It doesn't land. Noah is suddenly there, mint and wood like a door opening. His fingers catch the wrist with minimal force, maximum clarity. No violence, Noah says quietly. Not here. Not today. He releases the wrist as if returning a borrowed item. Around us, Amber's confetti smoke drifts like embarrassed clouds. Sirens whoop in the distance, not ours, the city's, the polite sound of bureaucracy arriving to witness. Legally speaking, Noah continues, voice warm as oak, you've violated Articles 2A and 7 degrees Celsius, coercion of Omega choice and unlawful attempt at recall. We can file charges. Or, he adds, with the kind of generosity that makes men think twice about earning it, you can leave. And I'll frame this as a misunderstanding that didn't calcify into precedent. My former alpha looks at me like there's still a script I might remember. I meet his gaze without hating him. I save the hate for systems that dress up as love. Go home, I say softly. Or build one, if you ever feel brave. It takes him 3 breaths. Then he steps back. His lieutenants follow because gravity isn't always a tyrant. Sometimes it's relief. The pack recedes, not defeated, just out of arguments the world will accept. Amber hums in my ear, adding Pierrot romance to your invoice. Great lighting on the moral high ground, by the way. Please don't actually write that, Raphael says. And if there's a smile in his voice, I pretend not to hear it. Too late, she sings. See you at debrief. Bring snacks. I worked very hard to not blow anyone up. I huff a laugh I didn't know I had left. The wind swings around, tasting of water and options instead of iron and orders. The yard empties. Inside the warehouse, sprinklers click off one by one, like a machine deciding it can stop worrying. Raphael turns to me, not looming, not angling, not bracing, just turning. The storm of him is quieter, cedar warmed by something I don't want to name yet. He looks at my hands, my face, my stance, the way a man looks when tallying a battle and finding more than he expected to keep. Stay tonight, he says. It isn't a command. He's learning. It lands like a question he's decided he's allowed to ask. I don't make him wait. I'm already home. The river exhales. The city lets us pass. And for the first time in a fight that started years ago, the silence after the storm isn't empty. It's ours. Dawn comes in green. The old city garden is a pocket the decades forgot. Stone basins sunk into moss, a spring that talks to itself in a small voice, trees that lean together like conspirators. The ground smells wet and good, turned earth, crushed leaves, the mineral breath of water lifting as steam. Birds practice optimism in the branches. Noah arrives first because he believes in beginnings. Fresh mint and warm wood move with him, the scent of a door opening. He doesn't lecture or fuss. He just tests the footing near the largest basin and nods like the place passed an exam it didn't know it was taking. Amber comes next, lighter on her feet than anyone who names explosives should be. She carries a canvas bag that probably contains nothing legal and everything useful. I brought ceremonial silence, she whispers, holding up a roll of tape, then grins and tucks it away. Kidding. I'll keep the perimeter clear. No fireworks. Probably. Thank you, Raphael says, and it sounds like please and don't leave, wrapped in calm. We set up without setting anything up. Rites don't need choreography when the bodies already know the steps. There's a stone bowl at shoulder height, fed by the spring through a narrow channel. The water warms the air as it spills and fogs the edges of the morning. My palms go damp, and it isn't the mist. Noah rests a hand on the basin's rim. Witness present, he says, soft enough the moss can hear. By code and by choice. Amber holds up a thumb and mouths quiet as a church, then vanishes into the trees. Her absence becomes part of the space, a guarded hush. Raphael stands across from me, coat off, sleeves rolled, breath white in the cool. The storm in him is gentled to weather, a sky that finally remembered how to be sky. He looks at me, not past me. I wanted to break you, he says. No theater, just the truth, offered in both hands. Control is a habit that made me feel safe. I huff a laugh that tastes like relief and old fear losing altitude. And I wanted to hate you. Looks like we both have bad discipline. His mouth does the thing it does when he's trying not to smile and failing in the most dignified way possible. The spring answers with a brighter burble. The ritual is simple and not. No knives, no chants, no bondage disguised as poetry. The omega marks the alpha accepts, not submission, recognition, a contract the body understands before the mind signs. Noah's voice is there when we need it. Say it, so the world can hear. I lift my chin. My collar is around my neck, inactive, the ghost of a mistake, waiting for burial. I speak to the basin, to the steam, to the birds heckling us from a sycamore. My name is Kane Lawrence, I say. Omega by nature, by stubbornness, by choice. I choose Raphael Crowe. Not as owner, as equal. I stay because I want to, and I go if I must. If he forgets, I remind him. If I forget, he reminds me. No chains, only the work of staying. The garden holds the words, the way good stone holds sun. My chest loosens like a lock being respectfully retired. Raphael steps forward. His hand lifts to the collar's seam. With your leave, he says. It's nothing. That phrase. It is everything. You have it, I answer. The latch gives with a small click. Not a prison door, just a piece of bad engineering choosing to retire. He doesn't cradle the thing like a relic, or hide it like a shame. He draws his arm back and throws the collar into the deepest basin. It hits the water with a sound like punctuation. Steam swallows it whole. We all watch the ripples smooth out and leave nothing on the surface. For a heartbeat, nobody breathes. The garden exhales for us. Noah's hand returns to the stone. Accepted, he says, and the mint and wood of him opens the air again. My skin prickles, a full-body shiver that isn't cold. The echo scent we've been dancing around for weeks wakes up like a polite animal finally invited to the couch. Cedar warms, storm lifts. My signature rises to meet his, not spiking, not pleading. Aligning. The filters in my head let go of their choke. The itch under my sternum settles. We smell like ourselves and not and for, like us. I step in close, until the fog beads on our jaws. I touch 2 fingers to the hollow at the base of his throat, where pulse is honest. Not a claim, a hello. I choose you, I say, for the small things that translate language into morning. Moss, water, birds, the cheap ring of the basin's lip under my hand. Today, tomorrow, if we earn it. Raphael's eyes go bright around the edges, the way eyes do when the inside of a man shifts position. He bows his head, not deep, not theatrical, just enough to show his neck to my fingers for 2 seconds that break a decade of habits. I accept, he answers, and it isn't a boast. It's a promise he's allowed to make. We don't kiss. That's not what this language needs. We breathe together until the garden decides we've done it right. Footsteps crunch softly. Amber appears. Hands in her jacket pockets, face loud with pride. Perimeter secure, she whispers. 0 paparazzi, 1 nosy squirrel, no collateral damage. Consider me your official silence officer. Thank you, Raphael says again, and the word is getting good at living in his mouth. Noah claps once, quiet enough not to startle the birds. Breakfast? Please, I say, because sometimes love is carbohydrates. We leave the basin to keep our secret, like all old stones do. Later, the city has turned gold. Back in the penthouse, the windows pour daylight onto the floor like a sermon I actually want to hear. The winter garden smells like citrus and sunshine, pretending the world is easier than it is. My body hums with a quiet, I don't have to fight. Breakfast is eggs that respect themselves, toast that pretends to be architecture, fruit cut too neatly to be an accident. Raphael moves between stove and counter with the focused competence of a man building a case he intends to win. Doesn't ask how I take my coffee anymore. He just makes it right. I filed a notice with the Pack Council, he says, sliding a plate to me. Witnessed by Noah. Your choice is on the record. Good, I say around a grape. I'd hate for the paperwork to feel uninvited. He takes the chair across from me, not the one that angles over my shoulder. The storm of him is now weather with a forecast I can trust, partly fierce with a chance of honesty. Our scents settle into the room like furniture that finally found the wall it belongs on. Amber barges in without knocking because she has earned that sin. I brought celebratory pastries and a bill, she announces. The white box lands on the counter. The envelope lands on Raphael's pride. Line item, pyrotechnics for romance. Also, squirrel hazard mitigation. Raphael pinches the bridge of his nose. There was no squirrel hazard. That you saw, she says, already stealing toast. Anyway, congratulations on your extremely tasteful, non-flammable love ritual. Get out, I tell her fondly. In 15 minutes, she bargains. I want to watch you two act normal for science. Noah texts a photo of the garden with a single word, peace. Raphael looks at it longer than a man looks at a photograph. He sets the phone face down like he doesn't want to scare it away. We finish eating. The espresso machine sings its small metal hymn. Sun climbs the glass and spills into our laps. The city hums a key I can finally sing along with. Raphael clears his throat. What do you want to do today? It's absurd how the question detonates inside my chest. Softly, like confetti. Nothing dramatic, I say. Laundry. Oil the squeaky dryer door you keep pretending not to hear. Walk by the river and not think about who's behind us. He nods, pleased, relieved, maybe a little in love with the way ordinary looks on us. I can do ordinary, he says. I know, I answer, and it might be the most intimate thing I've ever told him. We drift to the windows with second coffees. The city spreads below like a map someone finally translated. The echo sent between us is steady. No pressure, no noise. Synchrony without ownership. Gravity without chains. Freedom is not the absence of walls. It's the presence of doors you can choose. I make a note to etch that on something ugly. Final terms, I say, because jokes are how I sign treaties. If you try to command me again, I'll put a collar on you. Purely decorative. He huffs a laugh, low and warm. That seems fair. We stand there long enough to memorize each other's silence. I think, not for the first time and likely not for the last, freedom is staying where you choose to be. And today, with sun on the floor and coffee done right and the future not snarling for once, I choose here.